A very good morning, everybody. And I'm so happy to have all of you again here at our day 3 on our Stay Engaged campaign. My name is Mari Brommer, the Executive Director of the IGA, and my guest today talking about financing is Ivan Das from the Rabobank. Ivan, a very good morning to you. How are you?
Good morning, Marit. Thank you for the invitation and having me over. I'm fine, to be honest.
Very
It's a
good.
bit cloudy here in the Netherlands today at Eindhoven,
Yeah.
but the weather is fine. It's not raining, and yeah, things are pretty okay here.
Good. Very good. Well, a warm welcome to you and thank you for taking the time. Ivan, you are the Project Director Finance for renewable projects in the Netherlands and beyond. We're going to talk about geothermal because that's why you got the invitation. You're working for Rabobank, but maybe it would be very nice if you shortly introduce yourself and talk a bit about your position at the Rabobank.
Yeah, thank you, Marit. I'm involved in a project financing structure of renewable energy projects. At Rabobank Project Finance, there are mainly 4 types of renewable energy our bank is large in with our portfolio. It's wind, both offshore wind and wind on land, and then solar. We have biomass, which is split into biomass incineration and also biogas production. And the last, the typical sector is geothermal energy. And we finance projects from our department as from about 10 million euro upwards. And to get an idea, offshore wind nowadays involves projects of investments of 1 billion euro and more. So we span a range of between 10 million euros and no other end, because these larger projects are always financed in consortia of other banks and pension funds and life insurance company, for example. Maybe to mention, because we are a large Dutch bank with a broad local member bank network, we from our head office also assist our colleagues at the local member bank offices on smaller renewable energy projects. And for example, one wind turbine is at least 3 million euro financing, whereas of course for solar, you know, one panel is just 100 euro. So we try to assist all our clients throughout the country, also on the smaller type of projects.
Interesting. So you do much more than just geothermal, apparently, but you do geothermal, and especially in the Netherlands, you have been financing quite a few projects, have you?
Yes, that is right. I think we have financed about 90 or 20 of in total 23 projects we currently have built in our country. That's right.
Okay, so you have been involved in 20 out of the 23 projects, geothermal projects in the Netherlands. Okay, and are those, for those of you who, you know, in our audience, we have people from all over the world, and they're not necessarily into the Netherlands as a whole. So it may be very interesting to discuss a little bit what type of projects, the 20 projects that you referred to here, what are they typically? Is it low enthalpy, high enthalpy? Is it direct use, power?
Yes, thank you. In the Netherlands, our geology is not that good as in many other countries. So in the Netherlands, until now, it is just direct use and low enthalpy. The highest temperatures we have reached in geothermal is 92 degrees Celsius. We have not drilled to deeper depths, which, well, we have drilled to deeper depth, I must say. We have drilled to 4,000 meters, but there the capacity appeared to be 0 megawatt, so that wasn't such a success. On the other hand, we have our main projects are on a depth between 1,500 meters and 3,200 meters. They appear to be pretty nice capacity, but as I said, just direct heat use, and until now, also just for the horticultural sector.
Okay.
Because in 2006, our first project started in the Netherlands, That was a tomato farm. And in the years until now, we have just finished a drilling of one doublet some weeks ago. And the drilling rig is now transferred to the Westland area, also a large greenhouse area, where we drill another doublet. But having said that, it's only horticultural. There are a lot of discussions going on to also have the built environment, so this city district heating, heated by renewable energy, so heated by geothermal especially. But that appears to be very difficult because you need a very, very detailed heat network, which in many areas in the Netherlands we just don't have yet. So in the built environment, geothermal needs a lot of extra investments. So on the financing side, on the viability of these kind of projects, we still have some challenges to go, unfortunately.
Okay, so if I understand this correctly, is that the financing, so the typical finance close is relatively straightforward when it comes down to that greenhouse sector, so the horticulture that you refer to. But if it is about supplying heat in a district heating system, there is a bit of a barrier for getting to that financial close due to the infrastructure at service.
Yes, that's right. And there's also an aspect is that in those areas where there is a district city heating network available, yeah, all these networks are built on gas-fired plants. So all these plants, also the houses, are built for temperatures of 100 degrees Celsius on average. So, you know, when we have geothermal heat at about 70, 80 degrees, that doesn't really match directly to a district heating network and to houses and apartment blocks that are designed for heat of about 100 degrees Celsius. So that's a challenge on itself.
Yeah, no, I can see that. And that is also something probably where people are thinking about how to optimize those infrastructural settings in order to allow more projects to be implemented. But if I look at the role of the Rabobank in the Netherlands, you are coming from a bank that is traditionally known as serving that agro-food sector quite well, isn't it? Those are your typical customers. And hence, maybe for the greenhouse sector to seek that finance relationship with the Rabobank comes also more natural.
That's right. You know, to be honest, it wasn't Rabobank who got to the idea to explore for geothermal in the Netherlands. We are a large food and agri bank worldwide, but it were our customers in the greenhouse sector who got the idea, because in those times the gas prices were steepening up. It was their idea because of these gas price developments, and also for renewable of their the sustainability of their produce, the sustainability of their companies. They got the idea as from 2005, 2006 to start with geothermal. And every renewable energy project needs also bank financing. No one is going to build a project with 100% of equity. So 100% own money in renewable energy. That is not a typical project. So our client base kindly asked us to play a role. So we start playing a role as from the first project back in 2006. Yeah, and we still play a role because we are still happy to look at financing requests, because we think that geothermal energy in the Dutch energy mix is a nice niche on the heat side. So not on the electricity side, but on the heat side. It's a nice item to have in our country in this energy mix.
Yes, and maybe to elaborate a little bit on the role that you play, because I agree with you, you hardly see any project out there with 100% equity in terms of financing a project. So the bank, your role and in facilitating coming to financial close, what are the typical services that you deliver? Are those loans, debt? What do you finance?
Yes. The container definition, the large definition is debt.
Yeah. Okay.
Within all kind of debt ranges, it is mainly long-term debt.
Yeah.
Whereas in our country, we as a bank and some other banks also are happy, you know, when the quality of the plans, when the quality of the project management is good, we are also happy to start financing during the construction.
Right.
So in reality, we often are starting the equity goes in first. So the equity and subordinated loans, they are first transferred to investments. But then we mostly start financing with debt, so with long-term loans. And the moment the drilling rig is nearing the target depth in the first well.
Right. And that's important, isn't it? That first well, to get that first well drilled.
Yeah, right. And during this construction phase, we also provide temporary finance for the VAT payments.
Right.
The companies have to pay to the tax inspector, and 3 months later they receive this back because VAT is something to be transferred to consumers at the end.
Yeah.
But that is a financing need of about 20% of one bill that the company has to pay to the drilling company or all other service providers who are involved in the geothermal project at hand.
Yeah. Before moving to, let's say, outside the Netherlands and opportunities, I just wanted to ask you, Ivan, I see behind you a very nice picture, and I can read Dutch because I'm a Dutch native, but it says geothermal, isn't it, on the picture? What is that project about?
That is the project called Trias Westland. It also happened to be the one and only project who drilled to 4,000 meters, where they found a capacity of 0 megawatts. But then they had a fallback scenario to the layer called Lower Cretaceous at about 2,500 meters depth. And that layer appeared to be very, very well. So there was a very nice capacity found in the backup scenario, plan B. So the project was finished. There is a very large heat network is built with, in total, there are about 49 heat off-takers. And currently the drilling rig is being built up on the site to drill two extra wells. So the first 2 wells were very successful on the Lower Cretaceous. So not on the Trias level, but on the Lower Cretaceous. But because the megawatts were less, they could not build a heat network for all 49 heat off-takers. So they split it. And now, during drilling of the second doublet, they will also extend the heat network to the other companies that are also happy to off-take this sustainable heat. Yeah.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
Very interesting project indeed.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine. It's maybe even going to be the flagship project of the Dutch. You never know.
Yeah,
Ivan,
very innovative financing construction indeed.
Right, right. I get a lot of questions on, let's say, the role of banks in the energy transition. And I've been looking at your homepage of the Rabobank, and it really says that Rabobank wants to be the financier of the energy transition. Is that correct?
I'm very surprised to hear, Marit, that it is also on our website again, because internally we have discussed this topic about 1.5 years now, and I was still waiting for the first commercials to get online. So I'm very happy that you tell me that at least our website now explains this.
It's more implicit than explicit. Yeah. So I do agree with you, but I could see that between the lines it says We want to be there for the energy transition as a whole. And I think that's quite exciting, because I do think you already said that the Rabobank is a big bank. It has operations in many countries across the globe. But I would look at it still as especially from geothermal, that you look at the Rabobank as a Dutch financier. But I do think when I read those kind of implicit statements, that the Rabobank, and maybe even you as project director, are very interested in opportunities outside the Netherlands when it comes down to geothermal. Is that so?
Yes, that is so. We have our team consists of about 20 people in our head office at Utrecht, the Netherlands.
Yeah.
But then we have about 10 colleagues in the New York office covering the Americas. And we have about four colleagues in Mumbai who cover mainly India, but also sometimes other Asian countries such as Taiwan, for example, Australia. So it's a real huge area, of course, Asia. But yes, we want to cover a lot of the globe, whereas in the world. So we still, besides of renewable energy, we were the first bank in offshore wind, financing in a project finance structure, and also back in 2006. So we were the first bank worldwide to enter project financing in offshore wind. But then again, yes, we have a high ambition on renewable energy, on the climate targets, and we want to play a large role. Whereas this COVID-19 crisis is really an event which at this moment sets us a little bit back, because a lot of our clients are now in trouble. A lot of clients will also go bankrupt, also now not in renewable energy. So nowhere in our portfolio worldwide we experience problems worth mentioning. But of course, in a lot of other sectors, there are bankruptcies already going on or bankruptcies coming up. So our board has explained that we should assist our existing clients. So we are kindly asked not to enter in, let's say, all kind of exotic jurisdictions and exotic structures in places and countries we are not yet familiar with.
Yeah, no, but that I can imagine. I mean, it's safety first and helping your existing clients. I get that. But if you look at the longer term, let's say the timeline 10 years, as I always say, this is the geothermal decade. I strongly believe that in all aspects and all facets of geothermal. But in that timeline of 10 years, and if you look at your role and how you can offer that a service for geothermal, would you be interested in low enthalpy, because that's what you're now familiar with based on that Dutch, portfolio that you've built? Are you interested in scouting for and exploring for low enthalpy energy projects? Or are you also interested in the high enthalpy side, as in the power projects? How do you see that?
For us, it would be the most easy way to enter into the low enthalpy part of the sector, because that is what we know only in the Netherlands. But on the other hand, there's a lot of knowledge in the Netherlands, because, for example, we have Shell and all kind of companies who also are very active in oil and gas. So in the deep subsurface. So that would be for us the most logical way. On the other hand, we are currently also not only looking but working on projects on the high enthalpy side in the US.
Okay,
So
yeah, I was just going to say, are
might
you
be,
allowed to talk about that? Are you
no,
allowed to say something on that? Yeah, no, you're not. No.
I'm sorry for that. It's still too confidential to disclose.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, it is America, so that is covered from our colleagues in New York. But nevertheless, we have had some chats across the ocean, and for us, very interesting to get also involved in the high enthalpy side. So very interesting renewable energy technology, geothermal. Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, well, that's very good to hear, Ivan. And I support you on that because I do think it is very interesting, geothermal. And I do think we all have a role to play in that energy transition. For the participants in our conversation, you may ask your questions live to Ivan as well in our chat. So type it in the chat and I will those questions. Ivan, there is one question that came up from our audience, and that is really on. That's really on. How can we, as the geothermal community, get a better finance structure? You have knowledge from wind, solar, I know that. Do we do things different when it comes down to geothermal? If so, how can we improve our financing?
Right. On the range of complexity, geothermal is rather complex. Whereas, to put it very blunt and very simple, solar and wind on land are on the other side, you know, not yet, but looking a little bit like as we say, a cheese sandwich. So it is a mature, developed technology. You can order 20 megawatts of wind, you can order 20 megawatts of solar, and you get 20.0000 megawatts of wind or solar. On the other hand, biomass, biogas projects and geothermal are on the other side of the spectrum. So complex technologies. No one will guarantee you when you start drilling that you will find 20 megawatts. Actually, you for sure will not find 20.000 megawatts. You will find something you hope to be about in a range about around 20 megawatts. So that's one topic. On the other hand, banks in project financing are used to have one main contractor building the entire project.
Right.
In the Netherlands, on the geothermal side, we need at least 20 service providers in order to build a geothermal energy project. So that takes a lot of reviewing. It takes a very solid project management team. It takes service providers who preferably know each other, who know how each service provider works, the do and the don'ts. So also culture is an aspect. So there are a lot of more risks on geothermal than on solar, for example. And that is also why we ask a relative high amount of equity to put in to mitigate our risks as a bank. And also we need more contingencies. Actually, we need more contingencies than our clients think they will need. So unfortunately, we have to arrange extra financing, because if you are still drilling and there's no money left, and then you need a bank to increase the debt by even 50,000 euros, that will for sure be a hell of a job to get those extra 50,000 euros. So the way the last projects are arranged for in our country is get finance for far more than you need, drill the project, build the heat network, put on the ESP pumps, so start the commissioning, start the operation of the project, and in the months after starting the operations, we gather around and we say, how many finance is there too much? And then until now, every party involved, so every financier, both equity financiers as subordinated loans and debt providers, they get payback pro rata what they have put in too much upfront. That is a way we as a bank can manage the higher risk profile of low enthalpy geothermal energy.
Interesting, thank you for that. And I think this is a nice little bridge to another question that I just received, and that is, for the Rabobank to step into a project, what's the earliest point that you are interested in that? Is that after the drilling has been done, basically, and this is especially pertaining to deep geothermal energy projects? Or are you financing, let's say, in that exploration stage, the project as a whole as well? So do you need to have evidence from your first well that you're allowed to service a loan, or are you already, you know, in it from the beginning on? What's the earliest point that you step in from the Rabobank perspective?
That will depend on the country involved, because we in the Netherlands we have a state insurance product on capacity. So if a project is going to drill and does not find has insured, it's when they have insured themselves for not reaching P90 in the reservoir, they can get paid out up to 85% of the drilling costs. So, and as a bank, we always get a first right, also a mortgage, a first pledge on all the assets, all the project documents, all subsidies and whatever. So as a bank, we have a strong pledge on such a type of insurance. So when things go wrong, and the project management has drilled according to the protocol, they receive an insurance payout from which also the bank can get payback, because, you know, we don't put out our entire financing at day one. We finance according to the timing and the invoices of the project going forward. So, you know, when we finance, for example, together with the BNG Bank, this project Trias Westland, 40 million debt divided by 2 banks, we start up with the first 1.5 million, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. So not our fully exposure on debt is get lost during drilling when things go as wrong as possible. So that's also a way of project financing works. We have all kinds of structures in order to be able to monitor closely the project and the building of the project. And for example, whilst drilling, I also receive every day the day report that also goes to the state supervisor. Right. So we know at Rabobank every day what happened in the 24 hours before, what happened between 00.00 and 6 o'clock in the morning of this day, and what the plans are for the next 24 hours. So we are very closely involved. Yeah. And of course, from a bank, we don't have the knowledge. So we trust our clients to build these projects, to manage the projects in a good order. So when our client has not phoned me after 5 days when the drilling rig is standby because they need a site, how do you say, a sidetrack? I forgot the word. That's how long it was since we had our last sidetrack.
Sidetrack, yes.
So, so when I see there's a sidetrack, there's probably going to be a sidetrack, and our client hasn't phoned or mailed us within 5 business days, then we pick up the phone and ask, listen, we see 5 daily reports. What's going on? You know, not to try to take things over from the management, but to monitor.
I understand.
Question. We have financed a lot of projects, so we have also seen a lot of things going wrong during construction, also after construction. So sometimes we can have other advisors on board to help out.
Yeah, sure.
So that's also a role we see for ourselves in further development of geothermal energy.
Yeah, no, but I agree with it. With an eye on the time, Ivan, I'm so sorry because it's such a nice conversation, but it is all, we've almost passed the 30 minutes. Final question, and then I will thank everybody for sticking with me for 1 minute later. Final question I got is, you know, geothermal is quite large, high risk, large infrastructural project, so high capital involvement. But there are also lots of initiatives out there for smaller scale opportunities, and maybe even community-based, you know, crowdfunding, participation from the public. What's your observation from a bank perspective in those type of innovations in small-based geothermal projects? And would the Rabobank be interested in joining such initiatives?
Right. Basically, yes. Although I wonder what then the definition is of small. You know, from our department, currently we are involved in projects as from about 10 million euro.
Yeah.
So our team is not equipped to finance, let's say, 2 million projects.
No.
So that's why I first must say this is very interesting.
I guess in geothermal, we are always speaking about, you know, the 10 million projects quite easily, given that we need to drill the wells. Okay, I think with an eye on the time, and I don't want to cut you short, Ivan, but it's great to hear the yes, because I do think there is lots of opportunities from a smaller scale perspective. But it's great that you say that there is a threshold that says a minimum investment need is still, you know, beyond the 10 million euro, let's say, benchmark.
Yes, and to add on one topic for the sake of time, also professional management.
Okay.
So such a corporation should be willing to hire professionals to manage these projects for them. Right. That is something that I would like to say at last. Thank you very much.
Yes, well, I thank you for that. That's a great comment, by the way, because I do hear that a lot from the solar and wind corporations, that geothermal to them looks a bit like an, well, less professional community when it comes down to due diligence, best practices, lessons learned, and how you project manage these kind of large infrastructural projects. So good point, good recommendation. Ivan and the audience, of course, but Ivan, thank you so much for your time and your energy for keeping geothermal afloat.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
I bet there will be all kinds of questions heading your way, because I do think it's you play an important role on behalf of the bank in the Netherlands, but also beyond. So I bet I will be in contact with you on getting people connected. But I thank you so much for your time and your openness.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Yeah. Right. Okay. And thank you to the audience for staying with us and for your questions. Very well done. And stay safe and stay engaged. Thank you. Bye.